Hi friends, I'm Katie Brinkley and you're listening to Rocky Mountain Marketing. With nearly 2 decades helping business owners, consultants, and coaches with their digital marketing, I know that social media can be an incredible tool to grow your business when you know how to do it the right way. And that's what we're going to do today. I teach you how to navigate the world of entrepreneurship and digital marketing, and hopefully you'll grow your business with a few great tips you wouldn't have known otherwise, and maybe even discover a great local business you love. Let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. As we grow and scale our businesses, we always are trying to look for different ways to take ourselves out of the day-to-day. I know that with my agency, I offer done-for-you social media services, but I was still in there all the time. How could I scale, and really, how could I take my business to that next step? And a lot of times it's by adding in coaching and masterminds. And I want to talk about that today because masterminds have been a huge part of my business's growth. And I never really thought about having one of my own. But I want to talk about this too, because I'm a huge fan of coaching, not just because I offer the service, but because it elevated my knowledge to an entirely new step. There's all sorts of people out there who are 1, 2, 10 steps ahead of us. And if we can learn from them, we are not going to make the same mistakes, and we will be able to scale faster and grow faster together. My whole collaboration over competition is 1000% in group coaching and in masterminds. So anytime I say the word mastermind, instantly the one person pops into my head, and that is Chris Williams. So I wanted to bring Chris in for today's episode because he's also been a speaker on Social Profit Lab. He and I have spoken at multiple events together. He is just a wealth of knowledge about identifying your ideal client, your ideal customer, making sure people even know what it is that you offer and sell, and then how to take that and turn it into a mastermind. Chris is a dad. He has 5 kids. He lives out in Tennessee, and he's also an author and a top 10 podcast guest. And he has a podcast. Guys, listen to this. His podcast is in like the 0.001%. It is one of the top podcasts out there. So Chris, thank you so much for joining me on Rocky Mountain Marketing today.
Katie, oh my gosh, I'm super stoked to share another stage with you. And then we get to do this again. We're sharing another stage like in the next month or two. I'm so excited about all this.
I know. I love whenever our paths crossed. And I mean, we've been able to see each other in real life a couple times at different events. And we were both speaking at them, and then we attended events together. And every time I get the opportunity to sit down with you, it's always a ton of fun. And I learn a lot. You challenge me on different ways of thinking about my business and my target audience, which is a great thing. And I also want to say, for those that are watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening to this after you're done, head on over to YouTube so you can see the mug that Chris Williams and his team sent me. I've done Instagram stories about this. I've done Facebook stories about this, but it is a mug with Nicolas Cage's face on it.
It's the worst mug ever.
It is the worst mug in the entire world. It's super creepy. You have to make sure that you check out this mug. And when I drink it and I carry it around the office here, everyone stops and it's like, who is that? Is that Nicolas Cage? And I'm like, it is. And I don't have an answer as to why. Why, Chris? Why would would this ever be even made?
Nick, I know you watch this channel, so we're not making fun of your face, but you got a good face. It's just, this mug is hilarious because it's one of those heat sensitive mugs that like, it only shows up his face if it's like hot. So yeah, hot Nicolas Cage is in Katie's hands right now. And it's as creepy as heck. It's horrible.
Well, but you know what? I actually want to talk about this because I mean, this just goes to show you and I met online. We, met in real life. I've been a part of your group coaching program and I've made incredible connections. I've learned so much. And we've gotten to spend time together twice in real life, but it's just like getting together with an old friend, when you popped up here on Riverside to record this episode. And I mean, like, we're 5 minutes into the recording here, but at the same time, we've been chatting for almost about 15 minutes before we even hit record. So, I want to actually talk about that a little bit on, how we first met, and what made you, I mean, like, you've been speaking forever. How has it been that we only just kind of crossed paths like 2 years ago? Like, talk to me a little bit about your career journey that took you through to doing so much more speaking.
That's a really interesting question. I don't think you guys ever asked me that. For me, I'm always looking for what's the most efficient way to run our business. And I think that comes from me just being someone who wants to build a machine. I think that's what it is. I've never had like a major life illness or something that's kept me from working. So I started watching people who were like, oh my gosh, they got some big illness or had some big thing going with their family, and they had to take like 6 months off. And they always have these stories of, wow, I had to change so much. And all of a sudden I realized I could do my work in 4 hours a week or 1 hour a day or whatever. And they start cracking the codes on what gets them the biggest benefit and impacts the largest number of people in a significant way that's just smart. And all of a sudden it starts reprogramming the way you think if you force that schedule down. So that's what got me into speaking, because it's an easier way to like reach out to a lot of people. That's what got me into leading masterminds instead of doing one-on-one coaching and consulting, because it's scalable. That's what got me into like running our creative agency the way we do, because having some teams and systems in place freed me up. I mean, I don't know, Katie, I spend maybe an hour a week in our Done For You agency that launches and grows surgery groups. Like I just love the systems and I love the scalability. And I think all of that has sprung from me trying to figure out, okay, so I don't have that issue in my life that's forcing this, but I know if I create a false wall around my work life, it will force me to get smarter and faster at everything I'm doing. And that's what it's done. So anyway, I'm super grateful for probably the 4-hour work week. Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week book. I think that's where it kind of got me started.
Well, and I use speaking as my lead gen as well. So, I mean, with guesting on podcasts, speaking at conferences and events. And I found that speaking, and not just like in real life, but again, through like having this podcast, having the opportunity to guest on other people's shows, when people can hear you speak, it allows them to connect with you in ways that, I mean, again, I work in social media, but in a way that a 15-second video just can't replicate.
Yeah.
And I think that speaking was one of the biggest things that helped me get my coaching off the ground, and really my group coaching off the ground, because I was doing a lot of one-on-one coaching. I was doing a lot of, before Done For You. And the only way I really could scale my business was by doing group coaching. So if someone else is kind of in that same, I don't want to say hamster wheel, but the same spot where they're like, I don't know how else I can really get my business to that next step. You're saying like speaking was great for you, but how do I even do group coaching? It sounds like it would be a lot of work. What would you say?
Okay. I got 2 directions to go here. I want to see if can I step back to speaking one more second?
Sure.
Because I want to just give everybody like a cheat code on the speaking thing real quick. It's so important that you have multiple outcomes targeted when you're picking speaking engagements. So
yes. That's something that you and I talked about at an event.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So many people just think, okay, I'm going to show up and I want to be on a podcast or speak on some conference's stage so I can get leads. Okay. That is an awesome reason. Nothing wrong with that. Don't shy away from that. But there has to be more than that. So I'm always looking for multiple things. But here's some other options. I can get leads. Yes. That's the reason to be there. Sure. That other person I'm sharing a state like Katie can get leads from my audience. Our audiences are very compatible. We do completely different things. We can share leads. That's awesome. Also, could the person that you're sharing a stage with be a client of yours in the future? Could the person you're sharing a stage with be a joint venture opportunity, some kind of JV opportunity in the future? Could the person you're sharing a stage with be someone you could open doors for, they could open doors for the next relationship or next stage? Like, what's the bigger strategy game besides just I show up to get leads? Because here's the thing. If you only show up on a stage to get leads, you will eventually hit the wall and speak all you can And now you're stuck in this nonstop speaking world of getting leads, and that will burn you out. So if you layer on additional strategy pieces, you will eventually reach scale and they will start working for you. The engagements will start working in a different way. So that's to say, if you take nothing else from this conversation today, look at all the speaking engagements you currently have on your calendar and just say, oh my gosh, I got to think through what are the other opportunities in this space and make sure you dive in on that. If you're looking to add some to your calendar, only add the ones that have multiple, like a multifaceted connection.
Absolutely. Well, and Chris, I mean, I think that when we're first starting a lot of our speaking, it's almost as, well, any stage will do. I can talk to anyone. And that, honestly, that's one of the things that I wish I would have thought about more when I first started doing a lot of podcast guesting, was because time is valuable. Time is money. And if you're spending time on stages where it's not going to, I'm not saying that you have to walk off and be like, well, I made $5,000 from that podcast interview or anything. Like, what is the big picture? Like, I guested on the Bigger Pockets podcast about, I want to say almost 2 years ago now. I still have people reaching out to me that have listened to that podcast episode. That was worth every bit of my time. Whereas there's been some that I don't think it made it past 6 episodes. So was that the best use of my time?
Like,
Search what your target audience is. Is this somebody that's in it for the long haul? I think that was absolutely something that I wish I would have taken into consideration a little bit more when I first started doing a lot of my podcast guesting and my speaking.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. It's so true. And it's so easy for us to get caught up in like, oh, I want to speak on a big show. But folks, go after quality and strategy. JLD, John Lee Dumas and Kate Erickson are freaking awesome. Kate Erickson's work has impacted me and my team more than JLD's work. And I don't think, I say this, maybe we would, I don't think we would be a good guest on JLD's show because it's an amazing show. He's done a killer job, huge audience, but it's just not it's not our market the same way that other markets are. So I'm just using as an example, Entrepreneur on Fire. Don't chase the popularity, chase the quality and the strategy, and you'll be so glad you did. And again, all that to say, JLD and Kate's work is freaking amazing. But if it's not your audience, don't choose them. There's others that are freaking amazing out there. Yeah.
Well, and Chris, this is actually one of the things that you talked about at Social Profit Lab at my summit. You have to know who you're talking to. You have to know who it is that you're talking to. And if you, like I said before, when I was like, well, a stage is a stage, a podcast is a podcast, I can get my message out there. But once I really started figuring out who it was I was talking to, again, that Bigger Pockets podcast, that made perfect sense for me to be on because I work with a lot of real estate agents, a lot of mortgage companies, a lot of, so it was a great spot for me to show up on. And so I think that I had to really sit back, think about who my target audience was. What advice would you have for somebody that's just kind of saying, well, I want to get on more stages. I want to do group coaching, but how am I going to find enough people to fill a group? It seems like it'll be impossible. Shouldn't I just try and get as many people that are interested in my service as possible?
Yeah, super good question. And here's the truth of it. It is just as hard to sell somebody at $1,000 as it is $10,000 or 10,000 to 20 or 20 to 50 or whatever the number is. You need 10 people. Let's just put some math here. I don't know where everybody's at. So you got to decide what moves the needle for you financially. But let's say that $200,000 moves the needle for you. 10 people at 20K is $200,000. And if you want to put together a mastermind group of some sort and work with those people for 3 to 6 months and then have some sort of continuation program after that, that's probably a $300,000 year change just in the numbers we just talked about. And here's the truth of it, folks. You guys all know something. You all do something. Your expertise is so valuable. Here's how you price this thing. If you're thinking, okay, how in the world, Chris, can I charge $20,000 for something? Well, if what you're going to help someone accomplish, if they join your mastermind, 10 people in there, if they do what you say to do and follow what you say to do for a year, like if they don't have to work with you for a year, they can just work with you for 3 months or 6 months or whatever. But if they do what you say to do on their side for a year, what kind of change will it have in their life? If you can say, Chris, it would have a $100,000 a year change or $1 million a year change. Charge 10 to 20% of that value that they're going to receive only in the first year. If they do this for 5 years, and keep implementing what you teach them to do. They're going to just crush it, but charge them 10 to 20% of that. So if it's going to make $100,000 difference in their life, that's 10 or 20 grand right there. Charge them that. Figure out a payment option over 6 months, whatever you need to do, but get people in and change their lives, because over the course of 6 months, they'll have already made way more than you charge them, and let them win. You're helping people win, and you're helping people see that what's going on is real. And when you charge them $100 for something, we all been there. The honest truth is they just don't take it seriously. But when they got to pay something that they're like, oh my gosh, that's for real, they do what you say to do, and then they get results. And that's a super cool, interesting thing about humans, but it's also really cool that you can help them that way.
It's funny because I have this, Instagram boot camp, this 4-week training. And as I was, launching it, I was having a ton of DM conversations about it, which, that's how I typically sell is in the DMs. And, I was having a conversation with somebody and they were like, well, I have no money to pay you. I was like, well, this is a business. Like, I don't know what to tell you, but I mean, and it's true. If somebody's investing with you, then they take it seriously. And that is something too that I've noticed with group coaching. A lot of times people will think like, oh, well, it should be cheaper because it's group coaching. But I've found that a lot of these masterminds, a lot of the group coaching that I do, I'm paying for access to the other people in that group, the other members in that group coaching, because that's where collaborations happen, other opportunities happen. And I'm not saying for sales, but hey, I'm speaking at this event. They're looking for somebody that can talk about social media. Katie, and here I come, or anything like that. Yep.
It's the relationships. The first mastermind I ever joined, Katie, I don't know if I told you this. The first mastermind I ever joined was a group that Russell Brunson was running. This is a while back. And you had to qualify. I had to literally send them partially blacked out copies of P&Ls from the previous 12 or 18 months, something like that. You had to qualify to be in the room. It was really interesting application process. And I was so skeptical about joining this. I had never joined. At that point, he was pricing that room at 30 or 40 grand, I forget. And it was 50 people. It scared the crap out of me. And I was so indecisive about it. And finally, I kept hearing people say, look, it's not going to be what Russell or any other speaker in that group teaches you to do. It's going to be the other 49 people who are sitting there in Boise, Idaho, in Russell's office. Those people will change your life. And sure enough, literally within the first hour and a half, I was like, oh my gosh, I made a really good choice here. I cannot lose in this scenario because these people are freaking amazing. And once you're in, everybody's working together. And here's one thing I learned in that, and it's so hard for me to do this. I don't know about you, Katie, but I want to show up somewhere and it's so hard to not think about selling my own services. That's what we do. We're entrepreneurs. But when you show up in these awesome rooms, you got to freaking show up to just give. Hey, how can I help you go? And when you do that, everybody starts giving back and it just gets to be this most amazing thing ever. The people on the outside of your masterminds sell. The people who are inside the groups you're part of, just be a family. Give.
Mm-hmm. And that is, it's so true. When you're in, I've noticed that, from the masterminds I've been in, the group coachings I've been in, it's how can I use what I know to help this person? And when you're around other people that are as motivated and with their business as you are, you feel a sense of accountability. Well, I have to get this done. I want to, take my business there. I want to help so-and-so get their business there. I mean, it's amazing just surrounding yourself with other like-minded people, how it can help your business grow. This is not the direction I was intending our podcast to go, by the way. But I do want to talk a little bit about masterminds because I think that there's some people might be a little confused as to really what is the difference between a mastermind and group coaching, because the lines, I feel since COVID, those lines have gotten blurred as to what the difference is between a group coaching program and a mastermind.
Yeah. Okay. So let's work on a continuum here. And I'm going to frame this up in a value ladder continuum. So mastermind, we'll put that term mastermind at the top rung of the value ladder. And let's place a $37, lead magnet at the bottom rung of the value ladder. Okay. Now, the truth of it is the $37 lead magnet or the $50,000 mastermind can change people's lives. Both have lots of success stories around both. There's tons of testimonies about people who I paid $37 and oh my gosh, that was like the answer set I needed. I implemented and boom, I made $1 million. Great. But the truth of it is the majority of people change more for longer periods of time, faster, when they have more and more connection to a coach. This is critical, to a coach who's been there before and is an actual really good giver and communicator, and in a community that's all trying to go and accomplish the same thing. Okay, those two things.
That's a great way. Yeah.
Masterminds do that. So you got your $37, hook for your offer, right? And then this value ladder thing is broken, folks. You don't have to have a value ladder. You just go straight to the top. It's fine. It's so 2014. Just sell the stuff that people want, right? So the $37, great. Then you got an e-course, let's say, or then you got like a group coaching program. Oh, a little more. Now it's not an e-course. Now it's group coaching. All right. So let's talk about that. Group coaching is like partially e-course based typically, with maybe once a week or once a month, support call where you can ask questions of the coach. And there's a Facebook community and there's daily motivational emails, whatever, all this stuff. But a lot of it, 90% of it is automated and not really truly trust community and trust coach oriented. You step up into masterminds and that purest sense of that should be a smallish group, like 10, 15, 20 people max, led by a coach who's actually on these calls on a regular basis, monthly, weekly, whatever. And with those people this is a group, it's a closed group, and we can start relaxing and learn to trust each other over time. So that model, that mastermind model has been around. The first place I've been able to find it, Katie, is like almost 6,000 years ago in China.
Wow.
Those people were rocking it early on, putting community leaders together to figure out crop cycles and how to stay safe and public health issues and things like that. And then, not Napoleon Dynamite, Hill. No, that's the actor. The Think and Grow Rich guy.
Napoleon.
Yeah. The Think and Grow Rich guy, 100 years ago, that book. He popularized this in more of an industrial nation setting where the DuPonts and the Fords and all those guys that are super rich were putting their brains together. But that's just a modern expression. And now in our current economy, it's experts typically who lead these things. They put together groups. But if it's called a mastermind, I'm just going to call this out. If it is called a mastermind, it needs to be not primarily course led, very intimately involved with the coach, and a very private group. That is a mastermind. Anything less than that is a group coaching model. By the way, at Group Coach Nation, we run both models. I don't have a problem with either model. You just got to buy what you want and know where this is going.
Yeah. And I think that when you have that those people that are around you, it elevates, it makes you more invested, because whether it is a mastermind or a group coaching program, having other people in the room with you, that's what I pay for. I mean, I pay for the person that's leading it. But absolutely, I know when I was in Group Coach Nation, I wanted to see at the table. I wanted to be in that room with the other people that you collected. Granted, you were sitting at the head of the table, but it was so many amazing connections that were made. I mean, I've been able to continue talking with a number of them after the group coaching program was over. And so I think that is where it's the connections, it's the learning together and really elevating each other as we're going through something and with our businesses, again, together. I know before we hit record here, you talked about an app. Is this something that's on your value ladder or value?
Yeah, I guess that's a good question. So she was asking before we jumped in here, how can people get in touch with you, Chris? So here's where I went with this. She was you got an upcoming event or website or whatever. GroupCoachNation.com is our website. GroupCoachNation.com. If you want to go there's tons of stuff there. But what we did, this is I love this. This is so, I don't know, 15 years ago, we just got a Group Coach Nation app. You can get it on, Apple or Android, whatever your platform is. We just got a Group Coach Nation app. Here's why I think this is so fun, Katie. We've loaded it with tons of training, free training. We don't even freaking ask for your email address in there when you get the app. You can just go in there and dive in and just you can figure this thing out. I want you to know, is group coaching or mastermind building right for you or not? Answer the question. And if it's right for you, start doing some work that's right, not just messy. Okay. Here's why I think this is so fun though, Katie. To me, creating an app is like creating a mixtape. It's so it was when smartphones first came out, everybody's like, let's create apps. It's the biggest thing. And nobody talks about that much anymore because everybody's already got it. So now that we're doing it, I'm like, this is so funny and so fun. And if you don't have an app, folks, you should get one. We use Dan Hafner. If y'all want to drop me a private link or something on our website or whatever, ask who did our app. I'll connect you to the app guy. He crushed it for us, and it's freaking awesome fun what you can do with a community in your own app. It's really fun.
Awesome. Yeah. That's, that wasn't where I, typically the end, how are people best to get in touch with you? But I was just curious because with an app, I do feel like it's kind of something that not very many people are talking about doing anymore. Why did you decide to create an app for your group coaching business? Is it just for, again, kind of seeing if people are the right fit or giving that free education? I'm just curious as to where it was in your, customer journey.
Yeah. We have the podcast, the YouTube channel, the website, the
socials,
the newsletters, all this stuff, right? For us, it was nobody's doing this. Let's go have some fun and do something nobody's talking about anymore. So we truly did it because it was backwards. And if you've been in marketing long, folks, you'll realize that often the thing that everybody's doing is the thing that gets washed out and nobody pays attention to. If you do something that's completely opposite what everybody else is doing, it's kind of fun. And again, it's like if I said, hey, we have a Group Coach Nation mix track. It's on a cassette tape, and anybody who fills out this email address, we will send you our cassette. That's actually a really fun idea.
That actually would be kind of fun. I don't know how anyone would be able to listen to it.
Okay, I'm actually drawing a picture of a cassette tape on my whiteboard right now. Because that is so hilarious. Instead of Nicolas Cage mugs, we're going to start sending cassette tapes. Then you got to go freaking find some cassette tape player. I don't even have one in my house.
My car doesn't even have a CD player. I have no way to listen to CDs anymore.
I want to send cassette tapes out so bad now. Okay, so that's what we did the app, is because it was accessible, but it was also nobody's doing this. It's funny.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Chris, as we kind of wrap up this podcast episode, I want people to walk away with, okay, I'm interested more in maybe a group coaching or a mastermind if I haven't done one yet, but maybe also I'm interested in potentially starting my own. What's the first thing that you think that they should do if they are considering offering group coaching or a mastermind as part of their business model?
All right, I want to say two things here. One, you need to be sure you're the right person for this job. Okay, here's the 3 qualifications. If you don't match any of the 3, run. All right, go to the next episode. You got to be an expert in what you do. All right. Even I can't teach you how to be an expert in what you do. I can teach you how to build a group coaching program, mastermind, and do all this stuff. Cool. But you got to have your own expertise. Katie is a social media expert. She rocks. She's helped my team. She kills it. You got to whatever Katie's doing. If you want to do social media and get involved in that, figure it out. Katie's your person. I can't teach Katie that. I don't want to. All right. You own your own expertise. Whoever you are, lean in on that. Own it. That's number 1. 2, you got to be a good communicator. All right. If you suck at communicating, not if you're insecure about it. I'm insecure about communicating too. I hate listening to my own part. I'm not going to listen to this episode because I hate it. It makes me nervous. But if you suck at communicating, for realsies, don't do this because you got to be in front of people, right? You're leading a conversation. All right. Most of you are awesome communicators. You really are. And a little bit of practice goes a long way. 3, you got to be a natural giver. All right. That does not mean that if you don't like investing in people, you're a bad person. If you love coding, like software coding, and you really are passionate about that and you hate being in front of conversations on Zoom all day long or 1 hour a week or whatever, then don't do this. But if you love seeing light bulbs go off in other people and investing in people and helping them think through things, you will love this. Okay. Expert, communicator, love giving to people in real situations like that. If that's you, you're going to love this job. How do you figure out how to get started? I want to know Like, I want to know what you know and what it's worth. So I would say, take out a sticky note or piece of paper and write down what I told you earlier. If people took my advice on this one topic, pick a topic, do what I said to do for a year. If they have a $500,000 business and I teach them to do this and they take my advice, it'll make a $200,000 difference in the next 12 months. Whatever that number is, I want to know if that's real. Okay. Here's the easiest way for you to figure this out. Like, reach out to me on whatever platform you want to find. GroupCoachNation.com has my socials. The app, you can message us, whatever. Reach out and say, hey, I heard you on Katie's show, and here's what I'm good at. Here's what I think it was worth if people took my advice. Is that a real thing? Like, just ask. Either I or somebody on my team will, we hear hundreds of ideas all the time. Just reach out and ask. We'll tell you, yeah, people do that all the time, or no, that's not going to work. Try this instead. Like, we don't mind answering those questions. That'll help.
Amazing. Well, Chris, like you said, you are on all the socials, groupcoachnation.com. You can find you on the app. Listen to your podcast. What's the name of your podcast?
The Group Coach Nation podcast. Crazy, right?
Listen to Chris's podcast, all the things. It has been such a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for joining me on Rocky Mountain Marketing today. I really appreciate all of your time and all of your insight. You're awesome.
Let me just say this, everybody. Lean into the person you trust. And obviously, you're listening to Katie, and you have been. I'm not your first episode. Lean into Katie. She's your person. If you want to build a mastermind, call me up. But you're listening to Katie for a reason. Identify what that reason is. Reach out to her and thank her, first of all. Like, for real, she's awesome. And if you have questions, ask her. The hardest part for all of us is to get information from a source we trust. You already know that Katie's trustworthy. Ask her your questions. If she knows, she'll answer. If she doesn't, she'll connect you to somebody she does. But just move forward. Ask the questions so you can take action, because that action is what's going to get you unstuck and get you successful. And Katie is your person.
Well, thank you, Chris. And if you have any questions on masterminds, please reach out to the incredible Chris Williams. Thank you again so much, Chris. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Make sure to subscribe so that you can continue navigating the world of entrepreneurship. And I'd love to hear from you. Please leave the show a review and connect with me on social media. You can find me on Instagram at @IamKatieBrinkley or connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you're ready to start making some sales on social media, be sure to grab my free guide to selling in the DMs without being spammy. You can get that at katiebrinkley.com. Let's keep taking your marketing to all new heights.